Welcome everybody to the strategic update on our strategy. Today, the 24th of October, 2022. We have today Aitor Roda, who is the executive producer of Underdog Studio. And obviously we have here David Broderick, who is the CFO. And myself, Marek Tymiński, I'm the founder and the CEO of CI Games as a capital group. I will take you through the presentation again to update everyone on CI Games and get you through the presentation on strategic pillars that we just expanded and the support of each pillar. Then after that presentation, Aitor will take you give you a bit more information on Underdog Studio, currently where it is, and a bit more on the project that is new to CI Games. So that's our management executive team, the top 8 people in the organization. So obviously I introduced myself, David, Darren, who is the CEO for United Label, Kirsty, that is HR director. She recently joined CI Games. Previously to that was at Rebellion. Saul, who is the executive producer of Hexworks. He has been instrumental, key person in building the Lords of the Fallen current studio of Hexworks, and he's also overseeing Project Survive, another pillar. Aitor, who is today with us, he's the executive producer of Underdog Studio. Ryan Hill is the marketing director for all our releases coming from CI Games as well as from United Label. And John, who recently joined the company, he's the VP Global Sales. Previously to that, around 10 years at Codemasters as Director of Sales. And John is responsible for the commercial topics or the commercial activities around the globe. Just to remind everyone, we have 20 years of existence and experience and the past CI Games with AAA and AA, mostly across first-person shooters and RPG. We have 3 IPs, 60 million copies sold among Sniper Ghost War franchise and Lords of the Fallen. 5 main locations across Europe and Americas. Around 160 people at this moment in our group, and the average experience of our management team and the directors, so creative directors, technical directors, is 18 years. CI Games is established global AAA, AA developer and publisher with popular IP franchises that we own, that we control. We're specialized in first-person shooters and RPG games. We listed on Warsaw Stock Exchange. Self-publishing games for the last 10+ years, on consoles as well. Previously, from the beginning of the company, we always self-published our products. We had some experiences and some track record on licensing to some of the bigger publishers in some of the key territories, but primarily we self-publish our products across all major platforms on consoles and PC. Obviously, 2 major evergreen franchises, Sniper Ghost Warrior, Lords of the Fallen, and soon launching the 3rd one, that is Project Survive. What has to be also mentioned, absolutely, we're building our back catalog to be more and more important in terms of our generated revenue and moving also and big support for the recurring revenues going forward. Investment highlights. Again, experienced global team with distributed development and marketing. I think this is our very, very important strength of us as a company, as a group. Pretty much all the teams are fully remote. Everybody works remotely. We still have a small office, small part of the team working in the office in Warsaw, but that's also now under change. It's a 100% remote organization, and the strength of that is, and we've seen that in the last 2.5 years, that once we looking for any new position, any new candidate to any new position, we hiring the best available talent anywhere the talent is. So obviously we always try to have people hired in Europe because of the time zone, but we're absolutely not looking to any specific location. We're looking for the best talents for all our teams, and that goes for the development team, but also for marketing, sales, commercial, and beyond that. So we absolutely strengthened our teams in the last 2.5 years. And I think the games that you will see next year with the Lords of the Fallen, next projects, you will see that that's a work of really great, talented team in that remote environment. And obviously, quality and efficiency. We're absolutely dedicated to increase the quality of our products. And then again, you've seen that over the launches in the last years with Sniper Ghost War Contracts 1, Contracts 2, then the smaller games from United Label that also have been very successful. There is absolutely a significant raise of quality, and there's already a very strong quality that these games are representing, both on the user score and on the media, on the critic score. So that's the essence of the strategic update. Those are the strategic pillars that some of that 4 pillars we have had previously to that, and we evolved and added on top of them the new 3 pillars. I will go through each pillar in that presentation. I think what's really important to say, pillar number 1, Hexworks, is the Lords of the Fallen, the game that is coming next year. But then very soon we'll be starting to work on the project, we call that as a working title, Project 3, which will be more ambitious RPG game that we're targeting for 2025, 2026. And then obviously, a part of those 4 pillars that you all are aware, we have the new 3 pillars. Project Scorpio is pillar number 5. Aitor will give a bit more information today on that project and on his team. Pillar 6, that is Project Potential. Again, I will give you a bit more glimpse on that and a bit more information, a bit more support. What's really important here is this is something that we have been having in conversations with different licensing partners in the last years, and we definitely see a potential to leverage what we currently have in terms of the systems, experience, competence, and the teams. And then pillar number 7 that we call Project Expand is the pillar that is very much providing additional, potentially significant revenues coming from other formats than gaming, but also from the formats that are related to gaming. So it's transmedia, but at the same time it's mobile and VR that we can expand our IPs, working with third-party partners, business partners, and leveraging their expertise in each given field. So action RPG has a huge potential, and that's pillar number 1. Obviously, this is the next one is the Lords of the Fallen. It's a huge potential. I mean, you all must know RPG games have been there for years. What's really recently changed in that space, that games that were previously more tailored towards a bit more core audience with Souls-like combat, challenging combat, right now became very mainstream, and Elden Ring sold almost 70 million copies in the first couple of months after it was launched. The Souls-like subgenre is becoming more and more popular, and it's preferable combat system for the next RPG games to be that sort of to provide that sort of a challenge in itself. And the key factors for us that we believe the Lords of the Fallen and the next games coming from that pillar will be successful are compelling thematic, an expansive game world to explore, and this is related to escapism. And we know that players want to dive into a different world and depart from a reality while they're playing. It's a general mechanic enhancements and innovations. It's a good level of challenge coming from combat. People want to be entertained. Gamers want to be entertained, but they want also the challenge. They want the game to be the game and not just the cinematic experience. And obviously, the strong lore, meta story, that's again very important, and we put a lot of effort into working on the Lords of the Fallen to have that aspect really meaningful to bigger audiences. And as you see, we move more towards dark fantasy, and some of that lore, some of that meta story is already very significantly presented in the first trailer that we launched second part of August. And obviously effective marketing campaign. You all know that, we all know that. I think efficiency in marketing is absolutely a key to expand the brand, expand the awareness of any given game, and especially a big game like that, to maximize the sales, to maximize the appeal. We understand the audience, and obviously we reach out to audience through the surveys, we reach out through playtests, we reach out through different experts. So we absolutely staying very close to our audience to understand that the games that we are building are basically having them in mind. And again, like some of the key figures here, almost 20 million views. That's just YouTube. We decided to present just the YouTube data. It's very substantial considering it's just been 2 months. And apart from a huge popularity of the trailer, and I think on some of the channels, like a PlayStation channel or GameSpot channel, the Lords of the Fallen trailer became the most popular trailer announced over Gamescom. Not sure if we see each other, hear each other. Do you hear me? Yeah. Yeah. So it became the most popular trailer in terms of the view counts. And we also presented the game to our potential business partners, and it basically brought a lot of interest from them when they understood really what we are building over Hexworks with partners. And I think if you look into the wish lists, we are currently at top 40. Steam, we just launched the Steam page at Gamescom, so we have not collected any wish lists previous to that. It's a very, very good result to be top 40 just in 2 months, and that also demonstrates the strong interest from players around the world. On PC, we also have a very strong wish list number on PlayStation, and that is very, very good news as well. And we believe this will be one of the key titles on consoles coming next year. And yes, we will present the gameplay reveal later this year. So we will present the actual game, the look of actual game to the communities later this year. Pillar number 2 is around Sniper Ghost Warrior franchise. This is important franchise for us. It brought 30 million sales over the last 10 plus years. And we will keep going, and we'll keep developing the next iteration of Sniper Ghost Warrior. Most likely we'll be working with the external partner, and that work will be done by Underdog. I mean, overseen by Underdog Studio. Project Survive, that's our pillar number 3. We started works on that game over a year ago with very experienced partner, Battlefields. We're very happy from the progress of that game. It's really shaping to be a very attractive new entry and new IP to the survival genre. It is in vein of games like The Forest or Green Hell that is well known to the survival fans. And we have to, explain a bit more why Project Survive again. I mean, on one side, there's a bit of a combination of expertise and competence that our teams have, but it's very important to state the fact that there's we call it renaissance of survive genre. It just so many more players are interested into playing that genre, and we think it's a great chance for us to expand on that genre right now going forward. And I think the end, we see this game to be released maybe even next year. We're saying 23, 24, but there is a possibility that we'll be introducing that game to the audience already next year. And another thing, a lot of games on the survival genre are released at first as early access. And this is something that we're also strongly considering for that release. Project number 4, the pillar number 4 is obviously United Label. This is known to all of you. We want to keep going and expanding, building the catalog of interesting smaller games that are developed by indie developers, and we can then bring them to bigger audiences and maximize the commercial success of each individual. What we have already basically delivered with the first 3 releases. So Rocky was the first game, very successful from the Metacritic user standpoint. It also became profitable project for us. Elder Scrolls, again, very successful commercially as well. Very successful release for us. And the same I can say about Tales of Iron, really successful release, both from the standpoint of Metacritic, user score, specifically from the user score, but also very strong commercial release. And we're looking forward to expanding that portfolio in the next years. Pillar number 5, this is a bit, this is new to CI games, but I mean, let's be honest, game as a service and live ops is already very important part of the industry, and we provided some of the information on how big this is already is, and how obviously we're all looking forward to further grow, further increase of the size of the market of those games on consoles and PC. And I think at first this is gonna be a premium IP. This is gonna be a premium game in terms of the business model, but we're absolutely looking into a strong support of game as a service, and basically becoming relevant to bigger audiences than we were previously. And I think that the team is shaping to be ready to take that next challenge. And then again, I think if you look into what's hot in the industry from the standpoint of, we've been in talks to different strategic investors for at least a year, right? And we've been in talks to different business partners for many years. And this is a hot thing. People understand that the game itself, any given game in the future, has to have that component to become a more and more important from the revenue generation standpoint. And I think this is our entry to that. And Aitor will give a bit more information after that presentation. Pillar number 6 is really down to leveraging our resources, our expertise, our competence, our systems, our tech that we use externally, and the tech that we've been building internally, and leveraging that with existing strong IPs that we can bring products under those IPs. We can bring them from the standpoint of production. We can bring them from the standpoint of publishing. This is for us at this moment. We rather consider that as a strong option, but it is still a strong option in terms of the consideration. But we are in talks, and when we know a bit more, when we know something more firm around that, then we'll be providing update to that pillar. Pillar number 7 is really around taking our IPs to different formats, and that includes mobile and VR. I mean, starting with that, and we're not really looking into developing mobile games on our own, or we're not really looking into developing VR games on our own, but we're looking into partnering with companies that have a lot of expertise, especially on the mobile space. And you want to have a big partner, large partner, in order to be successful and basically leverage our IPs on those platforms. VR is still small, relatively small in terms of the sales, but we're also looking into that, and we think that in the next couple of years there is an opportunity that we will bring some of our games on a VR platform, with most likely third-party developer contracted to do the work on that. but then this is, again, this is too early to say anything defined on that. We absolutely considering that as important part of our business in the next years. And then it goes to transmedia, including film and TV. I mean, that again goes back to the strength of our IPs. But we absolutely think that at some point, some of our IPs will be strong to that level that this will become a natural step forward for those IPs to go into those new formats to CI games, but the formats that's been there for years already. And other entertainment products, that's another opportunity. We're also looking forward to see and explore more how basically we can leverage our growing IPs into different formats. This is the part on the strategy and strategy pillars, and I hope that I made it more clear to everyone here. We would like to move to Project Scorpio, so pillar number 5 with Aitor. Aitor, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Aitor, and I'm the executive producer of Underdog Studio. I'm very excited to be here today to talk about Project Scorpio and the work we're doing at the studio. I joined the company back in April with the mission to transition the studio into games as a service. Back then, we had a horizon of 3 to 5 years, but we see now the possibility to accelerate that transition with Project Scorpio, and we want to take advantage of that opportunity. A little background about me: I have been making games for close to 20 years now, working for big and small companies. My first experience with live services was back in 2008 in a web browser free-to-play sports game that we developed from scratch, and it was quite successful for the scale of the company that I worked for back then. So much so that I spent the following 2 years working on different spin-offs of that game. A few years later, in 2013, I joined Konami Digital Entertainment, and as part of their R&D studio in the UK, I work on the concept and implementation of Best My Club, Konami's alternative to EA's FIFA Ultimate Team, which was first released as a game mode within Pro Evolution Soccer, but eventually became a standalone free-to-play experience. As the company transitioned from traditional PC and console games to mobile-first and free-to-play titles, our remit within the UK division consisted of in-depth research on the mobile games market, with particular focus on the Western markets, analyzing successful titles and pitching new games. As such, among other titles, I was involved in the game concept for Best Club Manager, which according to App Annie has generated over $120 million revenue since its release and has a high average revenue per user compared to similar titles. Finally, in 2016, I joined Starbreeze, where I was exposed to 2 very successful PC and console live service games with Payday 2 and Dead by Daylight. First working within the global publishing team, then as an internal producer, and finally as operations director for all of the company studios. With this background, I believe I possess a good understanding of what is needed to run this type of games in a successful and profitable way. So let's look into Project Scorpio. Project Scorpio is a mission-based tactical multiplayer cooperative first-person shooter. It's developed in Unreal Engine 5, and it's been designed as a multiplayer-first experience. Our aim with this title is to target a much wider audience of players, including those who play multiplayer shooter games. We want to leverage our collective expertise in games as a service, and we want to accelerate the company vision by running both Scorpio and Sniper Next in parallel. Right now, we're still working on the game concept and laying the foundation for this new franchise. The main takeaway from this slide is that the global gaming market is still expanding, and PC and console games combined still represent almost half of all revenues, which means that there is a significant opportunity for us to capture some of that increasing audience with a product that is targeted at a segment of the market that has seen significant growth over the last few years. And I want to call attention to an example of a game I'm quite familiar with, Payday 2 by Starbreeze. This game was launched back in 2013, and over the 9 years in operation has managed to sell over 28 million copies across multiple platforms. This is still to this day one of the top played games on Steam, with a strong number of concurrent users, and is using the games as a service model with premium price on the base game and regular content updates of free and paid DLCs. As can be seen in the charts attached, the base game represents the majority of sales over the first 2 years of operation, but over time, the DLC becomes a significant revenue driver. This is a model that we strongly believe we can emulate to drive significant revenue and profits for the company. In order to get here, we have been upgrading the studio talent over the last 6 months with a group of very successful and experienced developers coming from a wide variety of backgrounds, from Rocksteady, Ubisoft, EA Dice, Rockstar, Digital Extremes, and more. At Underdog, we are now in charge of 2 projects, Sniper Ghost Warrior Next and the new IP Project Scorpio. As Marek mentioned before, we're a fully remote studio, and this has been a boon for us in order to be able to attract talented developers from everywhere in Europe. We currently have about 38 developers across multiple disciplines, and we expect to amplify our internal team through collaboration with trusted external partners. One of the benefits of remote working has been our ability to create a multicultural team, as we have over 19 different nationalities in the studio at the moment. And we also have significantly increased the seniority in the team, as on average, the new hires come with 12 years of experience. This, we believe, will represent a competitive advantage for us going forward. Developers that were already at the studio make for a very strong group to deliver high-quality games that will be enjoyed by our fans old and new. Let me introduce you some of these amazing people. Wayne was our first hire when I joined the team. He's a true veteran with over 3 decades of industry experience, over 10 years at Rocksteady working on the Batman games, and he takes care of all our art production needs. Marcin is also a veteran with over 2 decades of experience, and he was the first employee at Spearsoft Studio in Poland, where he was key in growing the team, and he worked in projects like Mortal Kombat or Injustice Gods Among Us. Francisco, or Maki as he likes to be called, is our studio art manager and has also over 2 decades of experience at one of Spain's most reputable studios, creators of the saga Commandos, and he's also in charge of the video game master program at Utah University in Madrid. Carsten is our software architect and lead programmer with over 2.5 decades of experience, most of them at Ubisoft Berlin, where he worked in Far Cry, Assassin's Creed, Skull and Bones, among other games. Dan is our animation lead. He's also over 2 decades of experience and has worked at companies like Rockstar in both GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 and Cloud Imperium Games, among others. Matthew brings over a decade of experience on films and animation movies, working for the likes of Disney and Netflix and managing multiple studios across time zones. Matt has brought some great production pipelines already to the team. Pierre is our lead gameplay programmer with over a decade of experience at multiple studios, including Cyanide, Jagger, and Ubisoft Berlin. Hector is our lead artist with over a decade of experience in games, having worked at Elite 3D, Take-Two Studio now, and Ubisoft, has been responsible for helping us establish the benchmark quality for our game characters and improving the quality in all our 3D art. Andre is our lead environment artist with a decade of experience at Ubisoft Sofia, where he worked in Assassin's Creed and more. Federico is a very talented cinematic artist with a decade and a half of experience in animation and games. His last role was at Splash Damage, and he has run all kinds of animation projects from scratch. He will ensure our cinematics get to the next level. Stefan is our design specialist and a very accomplished technical designer, having worked at Ubisoft Massive, Jaeger, and Crytek in the past. Miguel is a senior programmer with over 7 years of experience at companies like Splash Damage, EA Dice, and Ubisoft, and he's also been very active developing his own plugins for Unreal Engine. Alvaro is our network wizard with over 5 years of experience and having worked at Frontware and Barcelona Supercomputing Center. He will help us develop the network code to make the new game a success. Siam brings a wealth of experience in terms of environment and level art creation. She has been working at Black Shamrock the last few years and has been part of large productions like Back 4 Blood, The Outer Worlds, or Star Wars Jedi: The Fallen Order. And finally, Ignacio is a very talented technical artist with 6 years of experience in Unreal Engine, and most recently he's worked at THQ Nordic on the remake of Gothic and a few other projects at the Multiplayer Guys. And finally, Antonio is a brilliant designer with over 5 years of experience in the industry, where he worked at Digital Extremes in the acclaimed Warframe, and he's also been an Unreal Engine teacher at Utah University. We want to build on the success of Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2 with the release of Sniper Next, but we see a significant market opportunity to expand our player base with the release of Project Scorpio, a multiplayer, mission-based, first-person tactical shooter that will have the kind of gameplay that players love and will be conceived as an expanding universe of character stories that players will enjoy for years.
Thank you, Aitor. I think that's very helpful. We would like to move to questions. We see questions coming from investors on the chat. Let's go with the questions. The next Sniper title is 2024, 2025. So basically, can you talk a little bit more about I think the development time and what project will be first, what second. I mean, as far as I understand the question, and I think it's a valid question on Underdog. Our current focus, I would say, is on Project Scorpio, but we still staying absolutely committed to Sniper Ghost Warrior and Sniper Ghost Warrior Next. We think that Project Scorpio has definitely a stronger commercial potential, and we think that we are ready as a team of Underdog Studio to get on that project with that business model. David, maybe you see anything?
Yeah, I suppose just similar on this, some questions about obviously the new pillars, Scorpio, Extend and Expand, and people trying to understand if that will mean more headcount and more cost in order to deliver on these new pillars.
Yeah, I think, David, that's I mean, from my end, I think I can say that we do not plan to increase our running costs at least until we launch the Lords of the Fallen. The strategy, those pillars are our clear outlook for 2023, 2027. But it's absolutely important for us to release the Lords of the Fallen at first, and then to increase the running costs of the business. And that will also, by how much, it will depend on the level of success of the Lords of the Fallen and other projects like.
We're planning to deliver on these pillars that we've outlined today. I think just a bit like we've touched on Sniper, there's a couple of questions here just about, I suppose, overall how we see that kind of release schedule, games overall, and how we see that delivering into long-term return for the company and for shareholders.
Right. I think that it is very important for us to be able to grow our business in those 7 pillars, and we think that's essential from the standpoint of generating cash in the longer run, but also from the standpoint of risk management and from the standpoint of delivering bigger growth in the next 5 years, coming from multiple different projects. And I think that we have demonstrated that we, as a company, are absolutely capable to work on a number of projects at the same time. And I think that somehow I would say this is what the investors would want as well from us. I mean, David, please add anything to that answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, we have a strong, 3 core products. I think we've well flagged in terms of our intentions around Lords, Sniper, Survive, and what those can do for the company. And the presentation, I think, really clearly lays out each of those genres and the roadmaps for those games. not just in the near-term future, but certainly longer term. And I think the new pillars are supplemental to that. Our success and our ability to execute on our legacy core pillars will be very important. And I think it's exciting as well that we have this new opportunity with Scorpio as well, that kind of feeds in and feeds off the experience of the team and feeds off the experience of the genres that we play into, and there's a lot of knowledge already internally within the organization to help execute and deliver on those. And I think for us, this it diversifies our revenue. It gives us a number of revenue streams available to us, and I think as we settle into this kind of delivery pattern over the next couple of years, it should also equally help us deliver diversified and consistent earnings for shareholders. And that's before we even look at the strong back catalog and how we leverage that. So, I think there's good diversification and there's a, good experience in the team that will kind of allow us to kind of deliver on that and execute against that. I think just in terms of other questions, and it's kind of touch on something, Marek, that you referenced earlier, just in terms of Lords of the Fallen and how we see that, and I suppose what are we doing to kind of ensure that that's a successful release, and how are we feeling about the general overall outlook for that?
I think it's really important to say that. I mean, we already partially covered that in the presentation. We have the right quality. We will have the right quality. We have the right quality. We have the right thematic. We have the right genre. We have the right innovation, and I think it's a very good publishing window, considering how much this genre, that subgenre action RPG, Souls-like combat, how much that basically increased this year. So it's a great situation for us to have, and at the same time, on one side, we obviously making the game. This is a 5 times bigger world than Lords of the Fallen, the previous one. But at the same time, it's a semi-open world. It's not an open world, full open world. That is allowing us to have more control over the scope and more control over the production and deliver the game in time, on time, and in the right quality. But at the same time, we have to say that we haven't yet finalized the vision for Project 3. Project 3 can, at the same time, go into open world. We're not saying this will go to open world yet, but we're considering different scenarios for Project 3. In terms of another question I see here, are you in discussions with strategic investors? I think this is interesting. I think we should answer here. So basically, the process of strategic options review has been for more than a year, and recently it got accelerated the process that is run by Drakestar. Basically, Drakestar is running. It's a broker. It's a US-based broker. They're running the process that accelerated after we started the campaign for the Lords of the Fallen and presented the gameplay to potential business partners. We see a strong interest. I think that strong interest basically accelerated the process. But when we get to the next, more advanced stage, we'll for sure inform investors by issuing appropriate current report that is in line with what we have previously reported. And I think another question, what the strategic investors are looking for, related to the previous question, I think that the strategic investors are in general looking for strong IPs, definitely AAA, but as well AA. pretty all of them are absolutely looking at live ops and games as a service. I think it's pretty much across, I would say, almost all conversations we had so far. I think, if you look into Asians investors, strategic investors, they're looking into brands that they can expand more to the West. And everyone is looking for strong teams, and efficiency matters a lot. Efficiency of the business, efficiency of production matters a lot. And that's been the direction pretty much over the last years. And, looking from that standpoint, I think we are absolutely, and that goes back to what we said in the presentation. We are not a low-cost development model. We're not running the business as a low-cost development model, since it's more and more becoming a global European organization, and it is way more European organization now than not, and it's very different organization than it was even 3 years ago. So we are not really a low-cost developer in terms of the global space, but we are absolutely very efficient. And everything what we do in terms of running teams, running projects, sales, marketing, we absolutely always look into things from the efficiency standpoint. And but the efficiency standpoint is not directly related to say hiring people in lower cost territories, lower cost countries, like some of the Eastern Europeans might be perceived that way. David, do you see? What's the next question you see interesting to answer?
I think there's a couple of here that I'll try and combine into one, and I'll happy to kind of take these because they're kind of related. I think we touched on this already. Are we looking to raise money with these new pillars? No. Again, I think from the context of where we are looking out, obviously we want to successfully launch Lords, and we have a number of options available to us in that regard, from our existing cash balances, our current facilities, ongoing sales of our portfolio through digital and physical channels. And we're also, back to what's triggered a lot of these strategic discussions, we're in discussions with a lot of our partners and distributors around marketing spend, platform specific deals. We may equally look at our bank facility again, and we're talking to all the large publishers about potential global deals. Not all of these are additive, and will all support in terms of driving our ability to deliver and making Lords a successful release. I suppose also kind of tied to this, there's some questions coming in around London. Again, as we previously stated, this is a confidential process. I think realistically, given where we are in the calendar year, early part of next year is probably a realistic timing on that. Primarily driven by our desire to optimize the timing. So as you've seen from this morning, there's quite a lot going on in the business, and we want to make that a successful debut and optimize that, given everything that we've touched on already. So I think those are kind of key parts for us.
Yeah. Thank you, David. I think here I have another one. Are you considering minority or majority investment? I think that's regarding the strategic investors and the strategic options review. So we're considering minority or majority investment. So it's again too early for us. We're considering different scenarios, but we are considering also those two scenarios. And whatever we decide, we are confident the decision will be in line with basically the best interest for all the shareholders, and we seek to maximize the return on investment to basically all of them. So we are, basically that's pretty much, I can't say anything more. And again, it goes back to when we get to potentially next stage, we will be informing investors accordingly to that.
Just another question here. obviously a lot going on. How do you feel about the board, and that have you got sufficient kind of governance there? I think the simple answer to that is yes. We've obviously added to our board of late with the appointment of Jeremy Lewis. He comes with a lot of experience in the gaming sector and tech sector. So a fantastic addition, and given his experience with IDOS and with the Tomb Raider franchise, brings a lot of knowledge there with that. And also the process for London has meant that we've had to do a very deep dive in terms of our processes, procedures, overall general governance structures. And that's something that we've leaned on as well to make sure that we have a really solid foundation within the business in that regard. Just another question, I think, Marek, that's probably key that's popping up here. Again, I think it's one that every developer in the industry is kind of facing, but how we're feeling about the attraction of talent, retention of talent, people, etc. in the current climate.
Right. So I think that definitely we are very successful in bringing strong talent to our organization, and it's absolutely evident from what we have been able to achieve in the last almost 3 years. And I think that comes from there are a number of factors. Not saying which one is the most important in those factors, but it's definitely the projects that we are offering to work and the ambitions of those projects, the cool factor, if you can say that, of those projects, and that drives the interest of that talent. It's a culture that we have in our organization that make people willing to join and make people willing to stay. I mean, Hexworks being example, the retention is extremely very, very good. We have really people coming and staying, and the outcomes of the work is also excellent. I think it's also the way we run the studios that also that is also driving interest and of people to join us. And I think at the end, I mean, this is also it's also what people speak about us, and I think that it goes from United Label to Hexworks, and I think Underdog. It's the opinion, the reputation that brings more people, and that opinion is coming from people who are already there. That opinion is coming from people who work with. That opinion also coming from the recruiters who are then checking out with people whether they're happy or not, and they're more willing to bring and convince more people to join us because they know that they are driving new talent to the company that they will be happy to work for. So I think there are multiple different factors that are driving, and of course it is competitive. But then it goes back again to, we do not look for any project in any specific location. So basically, we're always looking into hiring the best possible talent on any given position, regardless of where she or he is. And that is a major advantage versus when you have to hire people in one specific city. So I think we're very, very, very good and very efficient in terms of building our teams, hiring and retaining people. Another question here, I see a question around United Label. Basically, what will be the next step for us in terms of the buyback of United Label? Asking whether we have enough or not in order to buy back the remaining shares. I mean, as you see, we have a lot that we have to focus on. So one comes after another. I think United Label, we are continuing in that process, and I think there are new regulations recently announced, and they're already, KSH, they're already part of our regulations that are dropping that to 90%. We are looking into that and seeing if we can use that potentially. So in short, we are in the process, and we're continuing on United Label as we started previously. Okay. I think the question is if we'll be looking for a developer to work on Sniper Ghost Warrior under Underdog Studio, will there be any any share or profit share with that developer. I mean, this is too early to say. It is not impossible. It's too early to say, but I think we're driving our business and we're pretty flexible, depending on the partner, depending on what partner can bring. But it's too early to say. The question is: you mentioned early access. Will Project Scorpio be released as early access? But then this is again too early to say anything more on Project Scorpio. But it's not impossible, basically. And whether we will be, how the gameplay reveal will be on the Lords of the Fallen. I mean, the gameplay reveal is the gameplay reveal, and somebody was asking whether this will be the same like Gamescom. Gamescom was a CGI trailer reveal, so it wasn't really a gameplay reveal. However, the CGI trailer was revealing a lot about the lore of the game, but it was absolutely not the gameplay itself. This time around, when we will be revealing the gameplay, this will be how the game looks exactly. So it's going to be a gameplay. David, do you see anything from your end we haven't yet answered?
No, I think we've kind of covered most of the kind of questions that are being posted. There's not much there. Like I said, I think from my perspective, I mean, hopefully the presentation gives people clarity about the opportunity that we see ahead of us. Hopefully gives some context as the opportunity in each of the individual genres that we're playing in currently. And hopefully are as excited as we are around the additional pillars that we've announced today and the opportunities that they will hopefully bring CI games in the future and going forward.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for everyone to come to the conference call on the strategic update from CI Games. And yeah, thank you very much. And we will see each other after the Q3 results soon. Thank you.